particular questions on anything that you've seen? Any comments? Anyone want a yoga stretch band or a deck of cards? At this point, I'm just handing them out.
Could you give us about, say, 5 minutes on what it takes to define and build a workflow or
Sure.
a process like that?
Yeah, but typically what we'll say with the workflow is a couple things. You know, you're going to look at your process today, you're going to map it out on a whiteboard. It's very, if this, then do this. So if the application is for this, go here. If it's for that, go here. And I'm creating, you know, in our little configuration, these little queues where the decisions are being made. So I'm in the first step queue. Is the application fully completed? Yes, route it on. No, send an email back to the person that sent it in, say we're missing these 3 things. Is the application for new hire? Okay, send it here. Is it for an intern position? Okay, send it over here, because we manage those different. And we have rules and actions out of the box that allow you to configure all of that logic without having to write any code. Advice that we'll give, you know, with regards to workflow is, of course, don't automate a bad process. Think about ways that you can improve the process as you go. And also, not to get caught up on every single possible exception that may occur, but to build the base of your workflow for 80% of the time. 80% of the time, these are the different things that may happen in the workflow. This or this, this and this or this. But yeah, 20% of the time are going to be these crazy exceptions that somebody with some knowledge really needs to know and work those items. So what we'll say is, you know, automate for 80%. Now you're automating, even when there is human involvement, for 80% of the time, and then everything else to start. So you're not building all this logic for this 20%. Send them to an exceptions handling queue that your knowledge worker is going to work and define. And we build it all in what we call OnBase Studio. And that's the same place that, you know, you can build some forms. That's where you'll do your web services. That's where you'll design your case management screens. And it really, you know, if you're technically savvy and you understand how, you know, a relational database works behind the scenes and how the business process should flow and what some of that logic is, you know, you can build them fairly quickly. And of course, there's a learning curve too. The more you build them, the easier they get. The more you kind of work out some of that.
Once you've got one built and you've got processes in
Yep.
flight, can you modify what other processes, while you got stuff in flight on workflow?
Yes, so you can decide, you know, do I want to, when do I want these new changes to take effect? We even have some opportunities, depending on how you want to run it, where sometimes IT makes the change. Other times the business user may actually have a privilege. They're not going into studio, they're not going behind the scenes, but we actually provide them. This is a big differentiator of our workflow, what we call workflow management. And it actually provides an interface for that business user to modify some of the logic. And what I mean by that is not all this like if-thens behind the scenes, but maybe our thresholds have changed. It used to be if the purchase was over $500, then it needed approval. Well, now if it's over $250, it needs approval. And the user themselves, you know, the head of the accounting department or whatever, they can make that little logic change on the front end. Something drastically needs to change with the flow, that would come back to IT to make that change. And then anything that's new will come in and follow this new flow.
Any new initiation?
New, or let's say you make a modification to something down here, this item up here, when it gets there, will get that new logic. Yeah.
So, for your exception handling, can you say, I guess you set up rules like, if it has this exception, send it to
this person or
person
this
or that.
queue or
Yeah.
whatever, yes.
Exactly.
And typically then that person's getting an email notification, or maybe they're like, there's too many, I don't want an email notification, send me a daily summary, or I'm just going to know to go check once a day and see if there's anything new. So there's all different ways to handle it.
So the OnBase can actually do the summary? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. It really depends on volume. You know, if it's every once in a while, you probably want an email every time you get one.
Right.
If there's always going to be something, maybe there's no email. They just know every day to go check. So lots of different ways. Other questions? Comments? Anything else you'd like to see? All right, very good. Thank you guys all so much for your time and attention today. And